Good morning. Today we are going to go out flying with friends. It's been a little while since I've actually taken the birds out to fly. There's just been a lot going on in life, and also the weather hasn't really been super conducive for flight, so I'm super excited to get them out in the air again. It's super early right now. The sun just barely came up. Right now it's still in the middle of summertime, so it's important that we get out really early before it starts getting super hot, or else the birds aren't going to want to fly at all. Now, before we're able to leave, we have a couple of chores to do. We got to take care of the rest of the animals, so I'm going to go ahead and feed the birds that aren't going to come with us and take care of all the other critters. In addition to the birds, we also have 3 little foster kittens right now that all know that I'm holding food, so they're screaming at my feet. He's staying with us for a week or two. I think this is like our 3rd batch of cats that we've fostered. Our shelter was like super overwhelmed, and we're a sucker for helping all animals. So we are back from flying, and it's actually been a couple days, but I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what happened when we were out flying with some friends, because the day didn't quite go as expected. All that to say though, it was a beautiful day out. It was really fun to get to hang out with some of my other free-flying friends, get the birds out, let them get some exercise, but again, things didn't really go as expected. So the number one thing that happened while we were out there, now it is important to note that this was a new location for Cedar, not a new location for Briar. Now Cedar is super familiar with flying in new locations, but this specific location was brand new to her. It wasn't a super challenging location, but there were a lot of different new things that she had never really seen before. It was next to a body of water. There were a lot of wild birds that weren't exactly dangerous to her, but birds that she had never experienced before. So when we first got there, I let the birds out. They were doing good. We were flying under this, off of this observation tower. So it was this big, tall, shaded observation tower. You see it at a lot of parks, especially down here in Florida, which the birds really enjoyed hanging out under, but they weren't really too keen of flying off of, which I've seen to be super common with them and also with other small birds. They just don't really want to fly off the big observation tower. It's big range. So no big deal. They were just hanging out, watching the big macaws fly, having a good time. At some point though, Briar and Cedar did decide to go off on an exploratory flight with the macaws. Now, it's not uncommon for bigger birds like macaws or even the little birds to trigger native birds into chase. So what ended up happening was when they went out on the exploratory, they ended up catching the attention of a crow who picked off Briar and Cedar into a chase. Now this isn't Briar's first time being chased by a crow, but it was Cedar's first time. Now once they got chased by this crow, they did everything that they were supposed to. They evaded him perfectly. He wasn't really looking to hurt them, but rather just kind of get them out of his area, which again, completely understandable. And they ended up treeing up. The crow left them alone. Briar very quickly came back, and Cedar did not. Is that right, Cedar? Now, we waited a little while, and we would every once in a while hear some contact calls from her, but for the most part, it was really hard to hear her or know exactly where she was located. And this is one of the hard parts when it comes to flying small birds, particularly green cheeks. Now Briar here, even though he's still a small bird, you can hear his vocalizations from really, really far away. He is an extremely loud bird, which is not great in the home setting, but is fantastic for free flying because I can hear him from great distances. Cedar, on the other hand, she could be right in front of me in a tree, and she's extremely quiet. They're one of the quietest species of parrots, which again is why they're so popular as pets. But again, it does make it a little bit harder for free flight. I put my hair up. That being said, Cedar is a really extremely skilled free flyer. She's flown in several different locations, and 99% of the time, these two are stuck together like glue. Wherever she is, he usually is. Wherever he is, she usually is. Something about this situation, having the crow, having the weather the way it was, something about this situation caused her to not want to come back to the observation tower. Now, I think another factor that played into this was when we first got there, there were several people that came up to talk to us. Now, it's not uncommon for people, it's very intriguing, it's very interesting to come see us fly our birds. People usually have a lot of questions. That's completely fine. I love talking to people about this. But it was Cedar's first time being around that many people. So I think that did overwhelm her a little bit. She was a little fearful having that many people around. So I think a part of that also made her a little bit nervous to come back to the observation tower. Now, that being said, again, she's very hard to see and she's very hard to hear, but we could hear Briar contact calling her. So we did know that she was relatively nearby, even though we couldn't see her. And two, it's not uncommon that if they can see us, even if we can't see them, they might not be as inclined to return to our contact calls, just because they're like, well, I don't know why you're contact calling me. I know exactly where you are. I'm right here. So all in all, Cedar ended up being treed up for about three and a half hours before she decided to make the brave trip back. Now, like I said, this is the first time that she has ever been treed up for that long. So I think it was just a conglomeration of the people being chased by a crow, flying in a new environment, that all kind of piled into what caused her to tree sit. Unfortunately, tree sitting is just kind of a factor of free flying. It's not necessarily anything I want to punish. I don't want to punish tree sitting just because I want them to always have that lifeline, you know? The trees are there to keep them safe. So if they don't feel safe, I want them to feel comfortable going to the trees. That being said, 3 hours is a little bit longer than I would like. So some of the things that we're definitely going to work through is trying to possibly fly her in areas where there's more people, maybe flying her off of more observation towers so she gets used to it, and just teaching her that, like, yes, it was scary, but you don't need to hide for that long. But all in all, it was a really good fly day. It was fun hanging out with friends. And also, this is a really good example of, despite how much training we put into these birds, we can put hours, we can raise them by hand, we can put in all the effort in the world, but they are not drones. They are wild animals and they're gonna act as such. If we wanted to fly drones that were gonna listen to us every time we did anything, we would go and buy drones. But that's not what we have. We have wild animals that we are taking outside, and we take risks every single time that we do that. But again, any day that all flyers are back is a good day. They had a wonderful time. Cedar got to learn a lot of new things. Briar got to learn a lot of new things, and we had a lot of fun. So yeah, thanks for watching.